Jax wiped the sweat from his forehead and stepped carefully over the cracked tiles of the ancient ruins. Dust floated in the air, catching the light of his small helmet lamp. He was a mechanic, not an explorer, but the colony had sent him here to salvage parts from old alien machines. Most people avoided these ruins, they said the place was cursed, but Jax liked the quiet and the chance to tinker with anything old and mysterious. The tomb sat at the end of a narrow corridor. Its surface was smooth, dark stone covered in strange symbols that glowed faintly. Jax scratched his head. "Looks heavy," he muttered. "Not like it will open itself." He knelt down, brushing his gloved hands over the surface. Dust and tiny rocks fell onto the floor. He hummed a little tune to himself, thinking about the tools he might find inside. He leaned closer to inspect a seam in the tomb. The stone was cold and unyielding, but there was something about it. A strange hum under his fingers, almost like the stone was alive. Jax's nose twitched. He sniffed the air. Ugh, this dust is terrible. Then it happened. A tickle in his nose, sudden and impossible to ignore. He tried to hold it back, pinching the bridge of his nose, but it was too late. CEWW. Jax sneezed with all his strength, sending a cloud of dust into the air. For a moment, everything was still. The dust floated lazily and Jax coughed, waving his hands in front of his face. Then a deep, echoing voice rolled through the chamber. "The heir has returned." Jax froze. His jaw dropped. What? He whispered. The voice was not loud like someone yelling. It was deep and resonant, vibrating in the walls. The air itself seemed to hum with power. Jax's heart raced. He looked around, but he was alone. "Hello?" he called, his voice small. "Is someone there?" The tomb remained silent, but the air felt heavy, alive. The symbols on the tomb began to glow brighter, pulsating like a heartbeat. Jax stumbled backward, tripping over a broken tile. His helmet light swung across the wall, revealing carvings of alien figures. They looked like rulers or warriors, tall and proud, with elongated heads and eyes that seemed to follow him. Jax gulped. He had heard stories from the elders, tales of an ancient civilization that had once ruled this planet. They had vanished thousands of years ago, leaving behind only ruins and machines that no human could understand. And now, somehow, this tomb had spoken. "Maybe it's a trap," Jax muttered, though his voice trembled. He took a careful step closer to the tomb. The glow of the symbols made shadows dance across the walls. He raised a gloved hand and touched the smooth stone again. This time it felt warm, almost like it was breathing. He pulled back quickly, heart hammering. Then a low vibration ran through the floor. Jax lost his balance, grabbing the edge of the tomb. A crack appeared in the stone, spreading slowly like a spider web. Dust poured out and the hum grew louder. The voice spoke again, softer this time but still clear. "The heir must rise." Jax's mind raced. "The heir?" he whispered. That's not me. I'm just a mechanic." He looked at his hands, calloused and greasy from fixing colony machines, not meant for ancient tombs or mysterious prophecies. But the tomb seemed to insist. The vibrations under his feet were stronger now, and he realized the stone was moving. The crack widened and faint golden light shone from within. He stumbled back, trying to think. Okay, breathe," he muttered. Jax had repaired starships, power cores, and even a mining drone that no one thought could work again. He could handle broken machines, but a talking tomb was a whole new level. He swallowed hard and peeked inside. The chamber was dark, but the light from the crack revealed a pedestal in the center. On it lay a strange device, small but intricate, covered in symbols that glowed faintly. It looked like a machine and a relic at the same time. Jax's curiosity overcame his fear. He took a step closer, reaching out to touch it. The tomb responded immediately. The symbols flared, and the air shimmered around his hand. Jax pulled back, heart racing, but he could not stop looking. He knew somehow that this was not just a tomb. It was a test, a signal, a call. And somehow, by sneezing, he had answered it. For the first time, Jax felt the weight of something much larger than himself. A chill ran down his spine, not of fear but of anticipation. This was no ordinary day. This was the beginning of something incredible. Something that would change his life forever. He took a deep breath and stepped closer to the tomb, unsure of what would happen next but certain of one thing. He had awakened something ancient and now it was watching him. Jax stared at the pedestal, his hands shaking slightly. The golden light from inside the tomb made the walls glow with strange symbols, and the air smelled faintly metallic, like electricity. The voice had stopped speaking, but the hum from the tomb never faded. It felt alive, as if it were waiting for him to do something. He stepped closer, eyes fixed on the device on the pedestal. It looked like a small machine, delicate and complex, with rings that spun slowly and panels that shifted under their own power. Symbols moved across its surface, glowing in patterns he could not understand. Jax tilted his head. This is incredible, he whispered. He had worked with human machines all his life, but nothing like this. The craftsmanship, the precision, it was beyond anything he had ever seen. He reached out, careful not to touch it too hard. The moment his fingers hovered over the device, the tomb reacted. The golden light brightened, and a warm pulse ran through the floor. Then the voice returned, calm and commanding. Do not be afraid, Heir. You are chosen. Jack stumbled back. Chosen? Me? I'm just a mechanic. I fix engines and drills, I don't. He stopped, realizing the voice did not seem angry or mocking. It was patient, guiding. You have the mind of creation, the voice continued. Your hands build and repair. That is why you are here. You can awaken what has been dormant for thousands of years. Jack swallowed hard. He glanced around the tomb. The walls were covered in carvings, figures standing over machines, hands glowing with energy, eyes bright with knowledge. Somehow these images told stories, though Jax could not read their language. And yet he felt he understood their meaning. The beings had trusted the future to someone who could create and repair. That someone was him. He knelt in front of the pedestal, studying the device. Small lights blinked and shifted, responding to his gaze. A faint vibration ran through the floor again, as if the tomb itself was breathing with him. Hesitantly, he pressed his finger to the surface. The device hummed and spun, rings aligning, panels sliding aside to reveal a tiny crystal in the center. Light flowed from it, warm and golden, filling the chamber. The voice spoke again. The crystal contains the knowledge of our people. You must learn, you must understand. Only then will the Heir fulfill their role. Jack swallowed. Knowledge? How could he understand this? It looked like a machine from another world. He had fixed drones that were broken for years, but this was alive. Yet, as he looked closer, he noticed patterns, rings that moved like gears, panels that responded to his touch. Slowly, he realized he could influence it. His hands, trained in mechanics, began to guide the device, aligning the rings, pressing the panels in order. The tomb responded immediately. Symbols glowed brighter, walls shivering with light. Jax felt a strange energy in the air, like static electricity running through his veins. He kept his hands steady, careful not to break anything. He was a mechanic, he knew precision. Then a vision appeared before his eyes. He did not move his head, but the tomb showed him scenes, towering cities of the ancient civilization, their machines glowing with power, the people walking among great engines that hummed like living things. He saw wars and peace, discovery and invention, the rise and fall of a proud race. And at the center of it all, a crystal just like the one before him. Jack staggered back. This is amazing, he whispered. He had never seen anything like it. The vision faded slowly, leaving him in the glowing tomb once again. He realized the crystal was not just a machine, it was a key, a map, a library and a guide all at once. And it was now awake because of him. The voice spoke one last time, soft and warm. You have begun the awakening. The path is yours, Heir. Learn from the past. Protect it. Build the future. Jack sank to the floor, overwhelmed. He had gone to the ruins to salvage parts and maybe find some old tools, and now he was the heir to a civilization long gone. His mind raced with questions. What did it mean? What would he have to do? Could he really handle this responsibility? Yet, despite the fear, he felt excitement. He was human, imperfect, small and often clumsy, but he was curious, clever and determined. He had fixed impossible machines before. He could figure this out. Somehow. He stood up, brushing the dust from his coveralls. The tomb was quiet now, the golden light steady, no longer pulsing. The device sat on the pedestal, waiting. Jax approached it again, his hands steady this time. All right, he muttered. Let's see what you can teach me. He reached out, ready to touch the crystal once more, feeling a connection he could not explain. The tomb was alive. The civilization's knowledge was alive. And now so was he, in a way he had never imagined. Outside, the wind blew across the ruins, but inside, Jax felt warmth. For the first time, he realized that maybe, just maybe, a human could be more than anyone expected. A mechanic, yes, but also something greater. The beginning of a journey that would change everything had started. And the tomb waited patiently, watching, guiding, and teaching. Jack spent hours inside the tomb, carefully examining the crystal and the device. The golden light made the symbols on the walls glow softly, and every movement of his hand seemed to make the room respond. He could feel the energy of the place, subtle but real, like the heartbeat of the ancient civilization itself. Suddenly the ground trembled. Small cracks appeared along the floor and the walls seemed to hum louder. Jax jumped back. "What now?" he muttered. The tomb was alive, yes, but this felt different. The voice returned, calmer than before but with urgency. "The path is not yet clear. You must prove your mind and your hands. Only then will the heir rise." Jax's heart raced. Prove himself? Oh. He looked around and noticed that some of the symbols on the walls had shifted. Panels opened in the floor and walls, revealing strange machines, levers and circular platforms. They moved on their own, waiting for him. He stepped onto a platform. Instantly, lights blinked in sequence across the tomb. One machine on the wall began to spin, gears turning without human touch. Jax frowned. "Okay, looks like I have to figure this out," he muttered. He examined the spinning gears, the panels and the levers. It was like a puzzle, but alive. Using his mechanical knowledge, Jax touched a lever and pulled it carefully. The spinning gears slowed, then aligned perfectly. A section of the wall slid open, revealing another chamber, smaller and filled with alien machines that hummed softly. The light inside was cooler this time, a blue glow that made the chamber feel calm but mysterious. Jax walked in cautiously. The machines looked impossible to understand at first, but he noticed a pattern. Each device responded to touch, movement, or even slight pressure. One machine had a series of rings similar to the crystal's pedestal, and Jax realized they had to be aligned in the correct order. He worked carefully, aligning rings, adjusting levers and pressing panels. Mistakes caused vibrations, small tremors that reminded him the tomb was alive and aware. But slowly the machines began to synchronize. Lights blinked in sequence and a soft melody hummed through the chamber. Jax's heart leapt. He was making progress. Then a shadow moved near the entrance. Jax froze, looking up. It was another explorer, a human from the colony, tall and cautious. "Hey," the figure called. "I heard the tomb is active. Step away from that thing." Jax shook his head. "You don't understand. This isn't just a machine, it's alive. It's testing me." The other explorer frowned. "Testing? That's impossible. These ruins are dangerous. People get trapped here all the time." Jax felt a surge of frustration. He wanted to explain, but there was no time. The tomb responded immediately, sending a vibration through the floor that made the walls shimmer. The voice spoke louder this time. "Distraction will fail. Focus, Heir." The other explorer stepped back, unsure, but Jax knew he had to keep going. The machines demanded concentration. He worked faster now, using everything he had learned about gears, levers, and timing. One misstep could stop progress, or worse, damage the tomb's delicate mechanisms. Hours passed. Sweat dripped down Jax's face. His gloves were worn and his clothes dusty. Yet, the more he worked, the more he felt a connection with the tomb. The devices responded to his touch, almost like they recognized him. Every alignment, every click of a lever, felt like a conversation between him and the ancient civilization. Finally, the last device clicked into place. The chamber filled with light, brighter than before, and a soft, warm energy enveloped Jax. The tomb seemed to sigh, and the voice returned, calm and proud. "You have succeeded in the first trial. Your mind is sharp. Your hands are steady. The path forward is open." Jax sank to his knees, exhausted but exhilarated. He had never felt so alive. The tomb had tested him, pushed him to the limits of his skill and focus, and he had succeeded. He realized that being the heir was not about power or glory. It was about understanding, patience, and using one's abilities for creation, repair, and protection. The other explorer watched in awe, stepping closer but not interfering. I've never seen anyone do that," he said quietly. "It's like the tomb listens to you." Jax smiled weakly. "Yeah, I guess it does. Somehow, it knows what I can do." He stood up, brushing dust from his coveralls, and looked around the chamber. There were more doors, more paths, more puzzles waiting. The tomb was vast and its knowledge was endless. Jax knew this was only the beginning. The challenges ahead would be harder, more complex, but he felt ready. For the first time he truly believed that humans, small, fragile, and often clumsy, could rise to meet the impossible. And somehow, just somehow, the tomb had chosen him to prove it. He took a deep breath, adjusted his helmet light, and stepped toward the next chamber. The tomb hummed in response, alive and aware, as if inviting him to continue. Jax knew one thing for certain. The journey of the heir had only just begun. And somewhere deep inside, the crystal pulsed softly as if smiling, waiting for the next move. Jax stepped cautiously into the next chamber, feeling the golden light fade into a soft, bluish glow. The air smelled faintly of ozone, and the hum of the tomb had grown quieter, almost contemplative. He could feel the weight of the place pressing gently on him, as if the tomb itself wanted him to understand something important. The walls here were covered in intricate carvings. They showed scenes of the ancient civilization, people building vast machines, floating cities, and great libraries filled with glowing devices. Jax ran his gloved hand over one carving, tracing the outline of a machine that looked like a smaller version of the crystal pedestal. The energy from the carvings was strange but comforting, like the images were alive in some way. The voice returned, gentle but filled with meaning. Heir, you have passed the trials, but understanding is your true task. See what was and learn what must be. Jax's eyes widened. Suddenly the carvings began to move. Not like a hologram, not like a projection, but alive in a way he could not explain. He saw the rise and fall of the civilization, their triumphs and mistakes. Cities that stretched into the sky, machines that hummed with energy, and people who looked both human and not, tall, graceful, with glowing eyes and hands that shaped power itself. He realized that the civilization had predicted a time when someone from another world, a human, would come to inherit their knowledge. And that someone, by some unimaginable design, was him. Jax's heart pounded. He was just a mechanic. He fixed engines and tools. He had never thought of himself as important. But the tomb, the crystal, and the machine seemed to know better. You are more than you believe, the voice continued. The knowledge you now possess is a gift, and a responsibility. The future depends on those who understand creation, repair, and balance. Jax looked at the crystal again. It was no longer just a glowing object. It felt like a key, a map, a library, and a guide all at once. As he touched it lightly, visions filled his mind. Entire cities powered by energy he could not yet understand, machines that healed the planet, and technologies that could connect distant worlds. He staggered, overwhelmed by the weight of knowledge. A soft vibration ran through the floor. The tomb seemed to react to his wonder, acknowledging his curiosity. Jax realized that the trials were not just tests of skill, they were lessons designed to teach him about the civilization, their values, and their hopes. The tomb wanted him to see that power without understanding could destroy worlds. Knowledge without care was dangerous. He sank to the floor, exhausted but focused. I think I understand, he whispered. This isn't about being the strongest. It's about knowing how to use what I have, how to help, not harm. The voice spoke again, approving. Yes, Heir. You see the truth. You are the bridge between your people and ours. Protect this knowledge. Guide it. Let it inspire, not dominate. Jax thought about his colony, about the humans who had barely scratched the surface of the galaxy. With this knowledge he could help them advance. He could prevent mistakes, show new ways to create and repair, and share lessons from a civilization that had achieved so much, and then vanished. He stood slowly, brushing dust from his clothes. The chamber seemed to hum with pride, as if the tomb itself was acknowledging his understanding. The carvings glowed softly, and the crystal pulsed gently, filling him with warmth and energy. Outside, the wind of the ruins blew across the rocks, but inside, Jax felt a connection he could not explain. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was a student, a guardian, and perhaps, in some small way, a continuation of the civilization that had created this place. The voice spoke one final time in the chamber. The path ahead is yours. Build. Protect. You are the heir, and the future waits for you. Jax took a deep breath and nodded. He had accepted the responsibility. It was not glory he sought, nor power. It was understanding, curiosity, and the chance to use what he had learned to help others. He realized that humans, flawed, small, often underestimated, could rise to meet challenges no one else could. He looked at the crystal again. Light flowed through it, soft and steady, like the heartbeat of a living thing. He reached out and touched it. The visions returned briefly. Cities, machines, and knowledge he would study and learn. But this time he did not feel overwhelmed. He felt ready. The tomb had revealed its secrets, shared its lessons, and entrusted its knowledge to him. And Jax, a simple human mechanic, understood that his life had changed forever. He was no longer just repairing tools, he was repairing the connection between past and future, between humans and the universe. He walked toward the exit of the chamber, the crystal still pulsing softly behind him. Each step felt purposeful, and each breath carried a sense of awe and responsibility. The tomb had chosen him, guided him, and now, it awaited his next move. Outside, the ruins seemed smaller than before. The sun glinted off the rocks and Jax felt the weight of the galaxy on his shoulders, but in a good way. He was human, yes, but he was also the heir. And with that, he knew the universe had possibilities beyond anything he had ever imagined. He stepped into the corridor, ready to face whatever trials and wonders awaited next. The tomb had shown him the past, revealed the truth, and entrusted him with its knowledge. Now it was time for Jax to shape the future. Jax stepped out of the tomb into the sunlight, blinking against the bright glare. The ruins stretched around him, jagged stones and cracked walls, silent witnesses to a civilization long gone. But he no longer saw them as empty. He saw potential, history, and knowledge waiting to be shared. The crystal and the devices in the tomb had revealed a world he could hardly have imagined. Machines that could heal, transport, and connect entire cities. Energy systems that ran without pollution. Knowledge of stars and planets far beyond human understanding. And it was all entrusted to him, the human mechanic who had sneezed by accident. He walked slowly, feeling the warmth of the sun on his back. The colony would be shocked when they saw him return, not just for the discoveries but for what he had become. Jax had learned that being the heir was not about power or fame. It was about responsibility, understanding, and guiding others toward what was right. Other explorers had gathered outside the tomb while he was inside. They watched him in awe as he emerged. Their eyes were wide, some skeptical, some terrified. Jax raised a hand. "It's okay," he said. "I've learned a lot. The tomb, it's alive. It teaches. It trusts us to use what we find wisely." The humans exchanged glances. One of them, Mara, stepped forward. "Can we touch it? Can we understand it like you did?" Jax shook his head gently. "It's not something you just touch. You have to learn, to understand, to work with it. Alive in a way. It responds to what you do, how you think. It tests you." The explorers nodded slowly, realizing that the tomb had chosen Jax for a reason. He wasn't the strongest, the smartest, or the bravest. He was clever, patient, and skilled with his hands. He fixed things, solved problems, and saw patterns others missed. That was enough to awaken the legacy of a civilization long gone. Over the next days, Jax returned to the colony, carrying with him only what he could safely transport. But the knowledge he had gained stayed in his mind. He began to experiment, carefully and respectfully, replicating small devices and teaching others how to understand them. The colony's engineers marveled at what he could do. Slowly, humans began to learn that their limits were only what they believed. He built machines that purified water faster, repaired broken vehicles, and even designed small energy generators inspired by what he had seen in the tomb. Each success filled him with awe. He realized that humans could create, learn, and rise to challenges that even the ancient civilization might have admired. The crystal remained in the tomb, pulsing softly, a silent guide for when he returned. Jax visited it often, each time learning more. The tomb had given him a responsibility, not control. He would be a student for the rest of his life, learning and teaching in equal measure. Word of Jax's discovery spread. Other colonies sent explorers, engineers, and scientists. And every time someone new approached the tomb, Jax would guide them, careful to honor the lessons he had learned. The tomb tested them, yes, but it also taught them. Humans began to realize that they were capable of more than they ever imagined. Jax often stood at the edge of the ruins, looking at the horizon. The stars stretched endlessly above him, vast and mysterious, and he felt a quiet thrill. There were planets to explore, machines to understand, and civilizations, lost and living, to learn from. The universe was no longer a place of fear and limits. It was a place of possibilities. Sometimes at night, he could still hear the soft hum of the tomb in his mind. "The heir has returned," the voice would whisper, calm and steady. And he would smile, knowing that the tomb had chosen well. He had awakened its knowledge, honored its lessons, and now had a role in shaping the future. Jax realized something important. Humans were small, fragile, and often clumsy. But they were clever, resilient, and endlessly curious. Even a simple mechanic could rise to the challenge, solve the impossible, and carry forward a legacy that spanned galaxies. He bent down once more, touching a small device he had carried from the tomb. Light shimmered from it, soft and warm, as if recognizing him. Jax whispered, "We'll make it right. We'll learn. We'll grow." And he knew it was true. Humans had the potential to shape the stars themselves. With that thought, he turned back to the colony, ready to share what he had learned, ready to teach, ready to build. The tomb, the crystal, and the ancient civilization had entrusted him with their legacy. And Jax, the mechanic who had sneezed on a sealed tomb, was ready to honor it. A new era had begun. The humans would rise not with weapons or domination, but with curiosity, skill, and courage. And somewhere deep within the ruins, the tomb waited patiently, a silent guardian, pulsing softly, knowing that its heir had returned. The universe was waiting. And so was Jax.